Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mad Barn Academy. And if this is your first time tuning in today, then welcome. We hope to earn your subscription. I'm Dr. Fran Rowe, one of the veterinary nutritionists here at Mad Barn. Today's video will be part 2 of a 2-part series on the equine digestive tract. If you haven't seen the part 1 video yet, go ahead and do that now. It's a quick video that covers the foregut, which will set you up for today's video on the hindgut. So let's get started. Our focus today is the hindgut, which encompasses the cecum, large colon, small colon, and rectum. So we'll start where we left off in part 1, which was the transition from the small intestine, that ileum, to the first segment of hindgut. But before we do that, let's quickly chat about the concept of fiber fermentation and what it actually means to be a hindgut fermenter. So horses are herbivores, this we know, and thus they consume a plant-based diet. Horses evolved as hindgut fermenters versus other herbivore species like ruminants, which are our cows, sheep, goats, and related species, which ferment fiber in their stomachs, the rumen. But what does it mean to ferment fiber in the hindgut? The breakdown of fiber requires special enzymes that mammals actually don't produce. Instead, horses rely on microbes to do this breakdown for them. Now, there are billions of microbes that live in the GI tract, and that includes bacteria, fungi, and protozoa. And in the hindgut, these microbes specialize in the breakdown of fiber through a process called fermentation. Fermentation really just refers to a type of metabolism that occurs in the absence of oxygen, like the gastrointestinal tract. So cellulose fibers, which are the components of plant cell walls, are the main substrate for fermentation in the hindgut. Though other substrates like starch and proteins can be used for fermentation by these microbes if they make it past the small intestine. The main products of fiber fermentation are volatile fatty acids, or VFAs, including acetic, propionic, and butyric acids, which are either absorbed out of the gut and used throughout the body as a source of energy, or they're used directly by the enterocytes and cells of the gastrointestinal tract for energy, such as with the case of butyric acid. Waste products of fermentation include lactic acid, carbon dioxide, and methane. So all of that fermentation is going to take place in the hindgut. And the first segment of hindgut is the cecum. It takes up a large portion of the right side of the abdomen, which I've highlighted with a star in that upper right-hand image. It's essentially a large fermentation vat. It holds a really large volume of water and digesta. The cecum is a unique structure because it is a blind sac. Its entrance and exit are right next to each other, and yet digesta will traverse the entire length of the cecum where it will undergo those first steps of fermentation. So the ileum, that last segment of small intestine, is going to empty into the cecum at the ileocecal orifice. Then unique contractile patterns, remember these are termed peristaltic contractions, will move digesta all the way down to the tip or apex of the cecum, and then all the way back up to the base of the cecum in this sort of mixing motion. So fiber may stay in the cecum for several days, in fact, undergoing the slow fermentation process. Then digesta is going to exit the cecum into that first segment of the large colon through the cecocolic orifice. So the main function of the cecum is microbial fermentation. It is also the site for absorption of those useful nutrients produced by fermentation, namely those volatile fatty acids, which the horse will use for energy, like we talked about, and also some other vitamins like B vitamins and vitamin K. A repeating theme throughout our discussion of the hindgut is impaction colic, And the cecum is no exception. The cecum can become impacted with dry, fibrous digesta in situations where the horse isn't drinking adequately or there's a real slowdown in gut motility. So digesta isn't moving through the cecum normally. Unlike colic that involves the small intestine, most horses only show signs of mild discomfort or reduced manure output when it comes to large colon impactions or hindgut impactions like the cecum. And this is particularly true if it's early on in that impaction. As always, it's really important to monitor your horse's drinking behavior and their manure production, because these are going to be kind of your first clues that maybe something isn't quite right, and potentially something like an impaction is brewing. From the cecum, digesta then moves into the large colon. The large colon traverses both right and left sides of the abdomen and takes up most of the hindgut's capacity, holding about 22 gallons of watery digesta. Horses have 4 distinct sections of large colon, and we denote these sections by their location. So we have right versus left, and then ventral, or along the bottom of the abdomen, and versus dorsal, which is along the top of the abdomen. So digesta moves through the colon from right ventral to left ventral to left dorsal to right dorsal colons before passing into the small colon. Traveling the full distance of the large colon takes an average of about 2 hours. The entirety of the large colon is dedicated to fiber fermentation. Absorption of those beneficial fermentation products occurs throughout the large colon, as well as resorption of water, which helps maintain systemic hydration and fluid balance. The hindgut essentially acts as a big water and electrolyte reservoir, which can be tapped in times of dehydration or electrolyte imbalance. However, if too much fluid is drawn out of the gut, that digesta will become dry, and that increases the risk for impaction, our repeating theme. So adequate water intake is really critical to the digestive process, as it keeps the gut really hydrated and promotes normal motility. This is how the cecum and large colon sit in situ, or in the horse. The horse in the right-hand corner here is to help you get oriented. We're looking at the gut, or at the horse, from an aerial view looking down. The head is towards the top of the screen, and the tail is towards the bottom of the screen. So for a quick review, digesta passes into the cecum from the ileum. Then it's going to move from the cecum into the right ventral colon, to the left ventral colon. Then we undergo a hairpin turn at the pelvic flexure to the left dorsal colon, and then finally to the right dorsal colon before transitioning into the small colon. The 2 stars highlight 2 spots of narrowing, which are worth noting, where literally the colon's diameter really narrows down dramatically. As one might expect, these are common locations for digesta to get stuck and to impact. So large colon impactions most frequently occur at the pelvic flexure because we have this dramatic narrowing and this dramatic change in direction happening at the same time. From the large colon, digesta then moves into the small colon, which is located primarily in the upper kind of left side of the abdomen. No more fiber fermentation takes place here. The main function of the small colon is really resorption of water and then the final formation of fecal balls. And just like the previous segments of hindgut, impactions can occur here as well. Last but not least is the rectum, which is really just a short segment of bowel that essentially connects the small colon to the anus for the purpose of storing and excreting feces. The rectum actually passes through the pelvic cavity, and it sits above the reproductive tract, if it's a female, and above the bladder. So putting all of this together, we can really appreciate just how complex the digestive process is for the horse. And just like the part 1 video, I wanted to end today with a few examples of some common conditions or diseases that affect the hindgut. I've included multiple supplemental materials in the description of this video below, so you can check those out for more information. And if you'd like to see a video on one or more of these specific conditions, go ahead and put your request in the comments. Okay, here are references for today. And thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Be sure to check out the other videos on our channel. We have new stuff coming out all the time on a variety of topics, so there's kind of something for everybody. And we're constantly building out that catalog of videos for you guys. Don't forget to check out the additional links I've provided in the description below, which go into some of those more common conditions or common diseases that can affect the hindgut. All right, you guys, thanks so much. Until next time.